that it was exactly the same type of man, same dress, same figure, same size as the picture that was taken on Bluff Marsh.
For decades, one photograph has captivated the imagination of mystery enthusiasts, ufologists, and paranormal researchers around the world. The image, known as the Solway Firth Spaceman, has become one of the most compelling and enduring photographic anomalies of the 20th century. Now, after years of speculation, analysis, and debate, experts believe they've finally solved this perplexing mystery. But the answer isn't what enthusiasts had hoped for. It all began on a beautiful summer day, May 23, 1964. Jim Templeton, a firefighter from Carlisle, England, took his wife Annie and their 5-year-old daughter Elizabeth to Burgh Marsh, overlooking the Solway Firth estuary. The weather was perfect, sunny, clear, and peaceful. The family had the entire marshland practically to themselves, a private sanctuary amid nature's tranquility. Little Elizabeth was particularly excited that day. She was wearing a brand new dress, freshly made and impeccably tailored. Like any proud father, Jim wanted to capture the moment. He took out his Kodak camera and snapped 3 photographs of his daughter posing among the wildflowers and grass. It was a simple family outing, creating cherished memories in the English countryside. A week later, Jim collected the developed photos from the local pharmacy. As he flipped through the prints, the pharmacist pointed out something peculiar in one of the images. Behind Elizabeth, seemingly hovering just above her right shoulder, was a strange figure dressed in what appeared to be a white spacesuit. The figure had a helmet-like head with a dark visor and appeared to be standing at an odd angle. Jim was bewildered. He was absolutely certain no one else had been present when he took the photograph. The marshland had been deserted, except for his family. "I can remember the day quite clearly," Jim later recounted in a BBC interview. "The only other people on the marshes that day were some distant farmers, and the only thing I can think of that might have been there was some cattle in the background." Perplexed by this mysterious figure, Jim contacted Kodak, the film manufacturer. After analyzing the photograph, Kodak experts confirmed that the image was genuine. There had been no tampering, double exposure, or processing errors. The figure in the background was present on the original negative. Kodak was so confident in their assessment that they offered a substantial reward for anyone who could prove the photograph was a hoax, a reward that was never claimed. When the photograph was published in the local newspaper, the Cumberland News, it caught the attention of media outlets worldwide. The image quickly became international news, appearing in publications across the globe. The story of the Solway Firth Spaceman was born. The timing of this incident couldn't have been more significant. In 1964, the world was in the midst of the space race. Just 3 years earlier, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin had become the first human to journey into outer space. The United States and Soviet Union were competing fiercely for dominance in space exploration. Public fascination with space, aliens, and the possibility of extraterrestrial life was at an all-time high. In this climate, Jim's photograph seemed to tap into humanity's collective consciousness, a possible glimpse of visitors from beyond our world. The resemblance of the figure to a spaceman was uncanny, with what appeared to be a white suit, helmet, and visor. For many people, this was compelling evidence that Earth was indeed being visited by beings from other planets. The mystery deepened when Jim reported an unusual encounter with 2 men who visited him shortly after the photograph was published. According to Jim, these men arrived in a black Jaguar car, wore dark suits, and identified themselves only as Number 9 and Number 11 from the government. They asked Jim to take them to the exact spot where the photograph was taken. When they arrived at the marsh, Jim told them that he hadn't seen any mysterious figures on the day he took the photograph. Upon hearing this, the men abruptly ended their investigation and left without further explanation. This peculiar visit fueled speculation about government cover-ups and secret knowledge of extraterrestrial visitors. The story took an even stranger turn when Jim learned about an incident that had occurred in Australia just days after he took his photograph. A Blue Streak missile launch at the Woomera test range in South Australia had been abruptly cancelled when security personnel reported seeing 2 mysterious figures near the rocket. These figures were said to resemble the one in Jim's photograph. The coincidence seemed too extraordinary to be mere chance, especially considering that the Blue Streak missiles were manufactured at RAF Spadenham, just a few miles from where Jim had taken his photograph. For decades, the Solway Firth Spaceman remained an unsolved mystery, fueling endless speculation and theories. Some believed it was irrefutable evidence of extraterrestrial visitation. Others suggested it might be a time traveler from the future, accidentally captured on film. Some proposed it was a secret government test of a spacesuit prototype. The photograph became a cornerstone of UFO lore, appearing in countless books, television shows, and documentaries about unexplained phenomena. Jim Templeton maintained until his death in 2011 that he had no explanation for the figure in his photograph. He consistently denied any hoax or trickery, insisting that the marshland had been empty except for his family when he took the picture. Then, in 2012, Dr. David Clark, a lecturer at Sheffield Hallam University and an expert on folklore and supernatural beliefs, proposed a solution to the mystery that had eluded investigators for nearly 50 years. After carefully examining the photograph and interviewing Jim's family members, Dr. Clark suggested that the spaceman was actually Jim's wife, Annie. He proposed that Annie had inadvertently wandered into the frame, her back to the camera, and due to the viewfinder limitations of Jim's camera, which only showed about 70% of what would be captured in the final image, Jim simply hadn't seen her when taking the photograph. According to Dr. Clark's theory, the photograph was overexposed due to the bright sunlight, causing Annie's blue dress to appear white in the image. The helmet was simply her dark hair, and the strange angle at which the figure appeared was because Annie was turned away from the camera. Dr. Clark explained, "I think for the first time in over 50 years, we've solved the mystery of the Solway Spaceman. The explanation is actually very simple. It's Jim's wife who accidentally wandered into the shot, and he didn't see her because of the viewfinder." This explanation seemed plausible, especially when considering another photograph taken that same day, showing Annie wearing a light-colored dress with her dark hair visible. However, not everyone was convinced. Critics of Dr. Clark's theory pointed out several issues that didn't seem to align with his explanation. Some argued that the figure in the photograph appeared too tall to be Annie, who was of average height. Others noted that the shoulders of the spaceman seemed too broad for a woman of Annie's build. The most persistent objection, however, centered on the helmet. The white dome-like shape around the figure's head didn't seem to match Annie's hairstyle or any hat she might have been wearing. Jim himself initially rejected Dr. Clark's theory, stating categorically that it couldn't be Annie because she was positioned behind him when the photo was captured. However, with the limitations of the camera's viewfinder, it's possible Annie could have moved into the shot without Jim noticing. In recent years, a new theory has emerged that might explain the helmet-like appearance of the figure's head. Some researchers have suggested that the photograph might have been taken at a moment when Annie's head was perfectly aligned with the moon, which would have been visible in the daytime sky. In May 1964, the moon was in its waxing gibbous phase, more than 50% illuminated but not yet full, appearing as a bright white disk even during daylight hours. If Annie happened to be standing with the moon directly behind her head from Jim's perspective, this alignment could create the illusion of a white dome or helmet surrounding her dark hair. This would explain both the shape and the coloration of what appears to be a helmet in the photograph. The moon theory provides a compelling explanation for one of the most puzzling aspects of the Solway Firth Spaceman. Combined with Dr. Clark's identification of the figure as Annie Templeton, it offers a mundane but comprehensive solution to what had seemed for decades to be an inexplicable mystery. For UFO enthusiasts and believers in extraterrestrial visitation, this solution is undoubtedly disappointing. Hence the phrase, "and it isn't good," in discussions about the mystery being solved. The Solway Firth Spaceman had been one of the most compelling pieces of photographic evidence in UFO lore, seemingly showing an otherworldly visitor captured accidentally on film. To have it explained away as simply a woman accidentally wandering into her husband's photograph, with the moon creating an optical illusion, removes one more piece of evidence from the arsenal of those who believe Earth is being visited by beings from other worlds. The story of the Solway Firth Spaceman illustrates how easily ordinary photographs can be misinterpreted, especially when viewed through the lens of cultural context and personal beliefs. In 1964, with the space race in full swing and public fascination with space and aliens at its peak, it's not surprising that a peculiar figure in a photograph might be interpreted as a spaceman rather than a more mundane explanation. It also demonstrates how difficult it can be to solve such mysteries when the original witnesses are no longer available for questioning, and when the quality of the evidence, in this case, a single photograph, is limited. For nearly 50 years, the true explanation for the Solway Firth Spaceman remained elusive, allowing speculation and fantastic theories to flourish. The solution proposed by Dr. Clark, enhanced by the moon theory, reminds us that extraordinary claims require extraordinary evidence, and that when investigating mysteries, the simplest explanation that accounts for all the facts is usually the correct one. In this case, the presence of Annie Templeton in the background of her husband's photograph, combined with camera limitations, overexposure, and possibly an alignment with the moon, provides a much more plausible explanation than the presence of an actual spaceman from another world. Yet despite the compelling nature of this solution, some continue to believe in the extraterrestrial explanation for the Solway Firth Spaceman. The photograph remains an iconic image in UFO lore, and the story continues to be told in books, websites, and television programs about unexplained phenomena. Perhaps most interestingly, the controversy surrounding this image reflects humanity's deep desire to believe we are not alone in the universe. The fact that so many people were willing to interpret an anomalous figure in a photograph as evidence of extraterrestrial visitors speaks to our collective hope, or fear, that there might be intelligent life beyond Earth, watching us, perhaps even walking among us. In the end, whether you accept Dr. Clark's explanation or continue to believe in the spaceman, the Solway Firth photograph remains one of the most intriguing images in the history of paranormal investigation. It reminds us of how easily our perceptions can be influenced by context and belief, and how even seemingly straightforward evidence can contain hidden complexities. For Jim Templeton, who maintained until his death that he had captured something inexplicable on film that day in May 1964, the photograph represented a genuine mystery, something that defied his understanding of the world. And in that sense, perhaps the true value of the Solway Firth Spaceman lies not in what it actually shows, but in its power to make us question what we think we know about the world around us. The revelation that this iconic image might have a mundane explanation doesn't diminish the impact it has had on our collective imagination. For over half a century, it has inspired wonder, speculation, and debate. It has become part of our cultural heritage, a testament to humanity's enduring fascination with the unknown and the mysterious. And perhaps that, rather than any evidence of extraterrestrial visitors, is the true legacy of the Solway Firth Spaceman, a reminder that even in our modern technological world, there is still room for mystery, for wonder, and for the possibility that there might be more to reality than what meets the eye. The solution to the mystery may not be what enthusiasts had hoped for, but in sparking decades of curiosity and imagination, the Solway Firth Spaceman has already accomplished something truly remarkable. It has reminded us of our place in a vast and largely unknown universe, and of our deep-seated desire to make contact with whatever, or whoever, might be out there among the stars. And for that reason, even a debunked mystery can be a valuable part of our cultural and intellectual heritage, challenging us to look beyond the ordinary and contemplate the extraordinary possibilities that might exist beyond our current understanding. In the words of Arthur C. Clarke, two possibilities exist. Either we are alone in the universe, or we are not. Both are equally terrifying. The Solway Firth Spaceman may not provide evidence for either possibility, but it certainly reminds us of how profound the question remains, and how eager we are to find an answer.